Hey everyone, and welcome to the Global Chapter, the podcast that takes you inside the real lives of expats around the world. If you have ever thought about leaving everything behind to start a brand new life, then this is for you. If you are curious about what it really takes to make that move, this episode is for you. And if you're already in the middle of your own journey and need some tips or advice, this is definitely for you. Each week, we talk and share honest conversations with people who took that leap. What pushed them to move? What challenged them? And how it changed who they are. We will talk about everything from the emotional highs and the culture shocks to how relationships evolve, the visa process, and even what kind of salaries you can expect if you ever apply for a job abroad. I'm kicking off things with my friend Kay, who moved from the UK to Singapore, spent 10 years there, and is now living his dream life on the beaches in Thailand. This is the Global Chapter where every story begins with a new destination. Let's start. So first of all, for someone who doesn't know UK, how would you describe yourself best?
Well, that's a tough question. I would say I'm somebody who's probably a bit impulsive. I guess this is why I ended up obviously in the life journey that I've been on. Impulsive, but very good at making the right, the right decisions with regards to weighing up the risks to the reward. That is obviously in line with that risk that you're looking to take. So I think impulsive is probably one of the first things. I'd say I'm a yes man as well. Right? And again, that also leads to the decision to get out of the UK. One thing I've admired about myself in life is the opportunity presents itself. Or even if somebody says, hey, do you want to do something X, Y, Z? I will always most likely say yes, because I've realized that the things you regret in life are usually the things that you don't do rather than the things you do. Not once out. Yes, of course, you've had regrets and other things you haven't done. Usually think that you've wondered, oh, had I done this, what would have happened? So for me personally, I don't like living in regret. I'd rather just go ahead and take that plunge. Wow, man, nobody's ever asked me how I describe myself. I think that's probably the first time I had to really think about it.
Yeah, but it's true, because I don't think anyone would leave their comfort zone and leave their family and friends and just go out. So I wanted to show people or the listeners what kind of character you are. And it makes sense, because when you say you are impulsive and you're a yes man type person, then I believe I understand now. Okay, any opportunity that comes up, okay, let's give it a try.
Absolutely. The one thing that I've realized, I've been living almost 13 years outside of the UK now, is that the opportunities present themselves. When you put yourself in that situation, when you're in that boat, when you're meeting new people, when you're out there in the universe and you're giving the universe, an opening, the opportunities find you. Never did I imagine I'd be doing what I'm doing now 13 years ago. But here I am now living in Thailand on a beautiful island in the middle of nowhere. So again, find the number one or the hardest thing is getting out of that comfort zone. And that is the reason why most people are born, live, and die in the same town and never experience life elsewhere.
I visited my childhood friends a few weeks ago. I haven't seen them for about 20 years. And we met in our primary school, and they still live there.
Same town, same friends, same lifestyles, everything. And look, by all means, I'm not saying that is the wrong way to live your life by any means of the imagination. Everybody has their own idea of what life is, or what success is, and of what is more important to them. Everybody has that those priorities. But for me, having not traveled, having not seen what else is out there, how do you certainly know that the life you're living is the best one for you personally? If you've never tried.
Exactly. One thing you mentioned earlier is that the luck is opportunities present themselves when you give things a chance.
Absolutely.
As you know, I played football my whole life, and there's also a saying that you have to force your luck. So
absolutely, you have to make your own luck. Absolutely, you can't You can't sit inside your own house, speak to nobody, and think your luck is going to come find you. It's just an impossibility, right? You need to put yourself out there.
Exactly, it's the same with dating, right? So if you're home all day gaming and you don't go out to meet friends or people or network or whatever, then it's the same thing.
Honestly, you took the words right out of my mouth. That was going to be my next step. Is that most people are like, oh, I can't find love and I can't find a partner, etc. But really, they're just too busy within their own 9 to 5, within their own lifestyle, their football, gym, whatever it might be. And again, it's about prioritizing. For me, getting out of the UK was always my priority. When I was at university studying, a priority was always that I was going to leave the UK, which is why it happened. But other people, it was to get married or have kids or buy a house. So again, going back to what I said, it's not about what's right and what's wrong. It's about giving it an opportunity or giving it a chance to see which way is best for you.
Exactly. It's exactly what you said. It depends on the person and what your priorities are. Because when I mentioned to you, my friends, by the way, when I went to see them, they're all super happy. They started families, and yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So that goes on to what I was saying, right? It's not for everybody. It's definitely not the lifestyle for everybody, but some people just are too comfortable to find out.
Yes, I agree. So before you tell us about your journey, you described yourself as an impulsive and a yes man.
Yeah.
If I would ask your closest family and friends to describe you, how would they describe you? What would they say?
Well, I mean, they probably sound a bit heartless, to be honest, because I left 13 years ago and rarely come back. Again, I guess they'll all agree that I'm very independent in that sense, right? I actually left my parents' house at university. I think I was about 18 the first time I moved out. Then I moved back for 1 year to my final university, and that was it. So I think independent is definitely going to be at the top of that list. Dependable, I'd like to think I'm very dependable. So, my close friends and family said, if they need anything, they'll always come to me, because then even if I don't have the solutions or can't help, at least I'll be able to point them in the right direction. I think dependable is probably a key characteristic. What else? Trustworthy. I think very trustworthy. I don't cross, I don't cross people. I don't burn bridges. People secrets are safe with me, as they say. I think trustworthy and dependable go hand in hand in that sense.
That's nice. That's really nice to hear. And,
in terms
agree? I agree because I mean, how long do I know you now? I think we weren't the closest, but I think 15 years.
Yeah, maybe even more than that.
About more than 15 years. So I can tell. Like I haven't heard from any of my circle or anyone I know any bad stuff about you. And I always hear, when you do something, when you put something in your mind, you do it.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people, they talk, I want to do this. I want to start a business. But it's the actions, right?
They never do it. And that's it. And that's what I said earlier on, right? It's about taking that risk, so I'm definitely a risk taker, if anything.
So where did that come from? Like, did you get it from your parents, your dad, your mother, your brothers, your what? Like, tell us.
Yeah, honestly, I think, look, coming from a family of self-employed entrepreneurs, my uncle, of course, being the first one in the family who led the path. I didn't come from an ideology of education. I was the first person to actually go to university out of my whole family. So I was the first person who started that university trend and actually getting a degree. Whereas everyone else prior to me just went straight into work or straight into self-employment and to businesses. So I think growing up, having been in that environment and seeing people around me make their own money, work their own schedules, kind of gave me that passion, also ignited that fire inside of me to do the same thing. So even from a young age, I think I started working initially, bigly, albeit maybe like 12 or 13, for TV tables and stuff on the seafront at the meeting place, which I'm sure you're probably very aware of. So that was always in me. I've always wanted to make money. I've always been money hungry. I've always been money motivated. So the only way in my eyes to achieve that, both the freedom and the financials, was of course self-employment. That's always been in the back of my mind. But to achieve that, I thought a degree would be the better route to take. Having the degree in your back pocket, if business doesn't work, for whatever reason, you have something that you can fall back on. At least that was the way we were raised. Get your degree, do whatever you want after that. If it doesn't work out, you can fall back on the degree.
That makes sense. Plan B, basically.
Exactly.
And you studied, was it finance?
Yeah, accountancy and finance, indeed, yeah.
Accountancy and finance. Okay. So now that like I'm connecting the dots, because earlier you said opportunity and cost and, like moving out.
A lot of financial terms.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I really like that, because you're using your financial accounting lingo, and then your entrepreneurship, and you mix that. It's really, really good. And when you look at your brothers, you have 2 brothers, right?
Indeed, yeah.
How would you say, how you guys all different? Because you said they both went into work. So we don't want to go too much in what they do, but I want to know what the difference between you guys are, especially you.
Well, look, again, my older brother, he never actually got sort of a formal university degree, right? So he's always gone off the work route and it started his own businesses. I think it was literally 17 or 18 when he started his first business. And whereas the younger one on the other side went completely down the education route, either to get master's educated. So of course he's the smartest of three, right? He's gone down the education route quite thoroughly. But with regards to, I guess, the way we were brought up and our personalities, although slightly different, I think we're quite similar in the way we were raised with regards past, for that trustworthiness, that dependability, that being with everybody, etc. I think we're quite the same in that respect. I think mum and dad did a good job in raising us. But when it comes to mentality, of course, that's very, very different. I've been raised the last 14 years in Asia, where they have still remained in Brighton or in the UK. And of course, the mindset, the environment you're in is for sure going to ascertain how you turn out. Considering that I left when I was 23 or 24, it's still an impressionable age. You need to be living alone in, brand new country or a brand new continent at that. Yeah. So it's a completely different lifestyle. And of course, that led to different outcomes for all three of us.
And who would you say was your idol, like growing up? So before we move on with your journey and why you moved out to the UK, just one final thing I want to understand is, because you said in your family, a lot of entrepreneurs building their own businesses, your brother.
Yeah.
So like for me, I have one or two people in mind that for me, I try to be like them or like use them as motivation. So who was your like idol or example?
Yeah. Well, again, for me, it's of course going to be my uncle, because I was working with my uncle from a young age, right? He was kind of the family millionaire. He's the one who sort of, made the successes, or at least financial success in that sense. Had a beautiful family, etc. And of course, living a very nice life. So for me, it was always my uncle. Obviously, he's my uncle and he's achieved all the things because I worked for him. It was good for me to see how the mind of a businessman works, see how his day-to-day activities were like, and to really see if the entrepreneur life is for me. Don't get it wrong. The entrepreneur life is not for everybody. If you're a tough, and in most cases, lonely lifestyle, right? Yes, my uncle had, of course, his wife and his family. His wife was by his side the whole way. So, of course, there's two of them working for the same goals. So that in itself is, of course, an incredible thing to have. But the entrepreneur lifestyle, people think it's a chilled lifestyle. You get to do what you want. You never switch off. You never switch off, because even if you have staff that running the business for you, you need to make sure that business is running as efficiently and as smoothly as possible. So you can never really switch off from that. So yes, my uncle will probably be the number one. And of course, my older brother, as we got to, growing up, became my second idol with what he's achieved in the lack of education that he's received. He's obviously done amazingly well for himself.
Just for some context, what does your uncle do? Just really briefly.
So my uncle is also a businessman. He's had multiple businesses over the years, from off licenses to news agents, tobacconist, post office, pound shops, you name it. He's had multiple businesses across the years, and now he's purely just in real estate. That's his current focus at the moment.
I think sometimes people underestimate that I believe that you need a mentor or someone to have an idol to just when you have questions, because like you said, entrepreneurship is really difficult. And by just asking a few questions or sit with this person a few moments, you learn so much that could have cost you a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of stress.
Absolutely. You know what, Mario? More than anything, it's about accountability. Yeah. If you're on your own, unless you're independent, you're a self-employed individual by yourself, no team, etc. You need some sort of accountability, especially if you're an individual who can't motivate yourself. Some people think, oh yeah, I want to do business, blah, blah. They end up just sleeping all day, relaxing, not actually giving it 110%. When you have a mentor, you have somebody there who's overseeing you, at least they hold you accountable. So it gives you someone, oh no, I can't let down my mentor. I have to do X, Y, Z. I have to achieve these goals that I said I was going to achieve. And that's only for people who can't hold themselves accountable and have no self-discipline. So having a mentor in that sense will be very helpful. But of course, if the mentor has already done what you were trying to achieve, it's a no-brainer that you'd go to get the professional advice from somebody who's done it. If you're trying to learn a language, it's much easier to have somebody who speaks the language than you trying to do it yourself using a book. Yeah, it's no different.
Love that. Because whatever you do, whether you are employed or self-employed, accountability is so important.
Absolutely.
And are you the person that when nobody looks, you do what you say, or do you take shortcuts? When you work from home, do you sit on your sofa all day and watch TV, or do you actually work? So this is like,
Look, everybody has their off days, right? They don't want to do nothing. But it's about the majority of the time. That 99% of the time, are you tracking towards the goal that you set yourself? And that is the most important thing. Is that every day you're doing something, even something minute, towards achieving that goal that you set yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. It's something really important, I think, for anyone listening. And now going to your journey. So when was the specific, if you can remember, that
Mm,
specific moment that made you think, I want to live somewhere else, I want to move out? Because you said at the beginning, you always knew you wanted to leave the UK.
exactly. Yeah.
Why?
Well, look, growing up and I was studying in accounting and finance, again, wasn't really too sure what that entailed. I didn't know where I was going to end up with that degree. Yeah. But all I wanted to do from a young age is be one of those guys that's always jet setting around, everywhere around the world in my briefcase, stuff from meeting to meeting. That's what I thought my life is going to be like. Yeah. I didn't thought I'd be traveling from country to country, doing all these business meetings, blah, blah, blah. But as I got a bit older and I saw that traveling for work, they absolutely hated it. It wasn't what it was cracked out to be. As a young guy who loved to travel, you thought it would be amazing, traveling all over the world. But actually, it's the worst thing in the planet. You're never at home. You're never in your home country. You're always living in a hotel, eating hotel food, living out of a suitcase. It wasn't really what it was cracked out to be on TV. After going up, I was like, okay, I wanted to travel because I wanted to explore and get out of here. Moving every couple of days to different countries just doesn't sound appealing anymore. So moving to the country and living there completely, that to me sounded much more appealing. And of course, as you know, I speak fluent Arabic. So going to Dubai was going to be my first option because Dubai was booming back then 13 years ago. Or so, in the progress of booming. And of course, finance is a big thing in Dubai. I thought I'd combine my Arabic and my degree and go to Dubai. But then for many reasons, that actually didn't materialize, even though I did get a job offer in Dubai. Let's end it now. That was my first sort of job offer after I had graduated and moved to London. So yeah, say again, sorry.
Why? Why did you turn it down?
Yeah, so I don't know. Something just didn't sit with me. It was actually a friend of a friend who introduced me to this guy who lived in Dubai at the time and had his own financial advisory firm, and I just, of course, studied from accounting and finance. So it was in my remit. And actually, it's the same role I ended up doing, but in Singapore. And we'll get onto that in a minute. So yeah, I graduated living in London. I think that's probably about a year into my graduate job working for a company called Morningstar in London, supplying investment data and investment research to financial advisors. And then, yeah, my friend introduced me to this guy who's got this company in Dubai. He offered me the job, but it just didn't sit right with me. There's certain things, the whole package just didn't really work for me. So I turned it down. And then these non-tenacious about how Singapore came about, because maybe 3-4 months later, I randomly get an email in my inbox saying, hey, we've seen your CV online. We think you're amazing for this position, blah, blah, blah. Would love to give you an interview. Now, bearing in mind, I never applied for this job. Yeah. I have no idea where they even found my CV. I assume, as you do when you graduate, you want to apply for any job possible. You just want to start working and making money. So I assume I must have forgotten my CV on some job post somewhere online, and they somehow managed to find me. And I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. Yeah. So again, I had no intention of going to Singapore. I had no intention where Singapore even was. I had no idea. I knew it was in Asia, but I couldn't pinpoint it for you on a map. And then fast forward 3 months later, I did the interview, got the job. My manager absolutely loved me, and I was the first one she hired. And 3 months later, I was out in Singapore. I got my visa. So,
that's amazing. Sorry to go back a step because we will go to Singapore. It's an amazing story, actually. So I completely agree with moving for work and traveling for work is an absolute pain sometimes, especially when you have to travel really far with the jet lag, living in a hotel, out of the hotel, your suitcase. I also thought when I was younger that when you travel for work, that's it, I made it and that's the life. Even until recent, my wife thought, oh, it's the best life, but actually you're going to arrive really late. You're going to start work very early in the morning.
Yeah.
You're never really off work because even after hours, you're doing stuff for work. It's really, yeah, exactly. But what I wanted to get out of you is like why did you want to move out of the UK? Like you left your family, your friends, your home country. Like I just want to understand why you left.
I've always had that itch, Mario. I guess coming from a family of immigrants, right? I never really felt like the UK was home. Yeah. I was in the UK from the age of 1.5 when my parents moved to the UK, Sudan, right? So again, look, it's no big secret. If you look at us, we are not the same complexion. We're not the same look and feel as, true British, European. So having, we're raised in that environment through years and years of, not direct racism to me, but direct racism to the population in general, the whole community. As you know, there's quite a large community of us in Brighton. So that was, I guess, a motivating factor that if I wasn't going to feel at home in my own home country, then why don't I not go feel at home somewhere else? Why not go feel not home in somewhere that's actually tropical environment, somewhere that's low taxation, somewhere that I actually want to be, and I'm going to feel more at home than I am at home. Now I'm an expat. Back then, I was a smelly Arab or smelly Paki or whatever it might be, right? Being raised in that environment didn't exactly make you want to stay there.
Right.
That was number one.
Yeah.
Number two is I absolutely detest the cold weather. I just don't like the cold. I don't like the cold. I don't like the rain. So me, I've always had the idea of living in a tropical paradise. I've always wanted to live in somewhere that's hot, somewhere that's sunny all year round, that I can basically enjoy without having to think, oh, it's freezing, let's stay in today, let's do this, do that. I've always wanted to have that tropical, I guess, climate around me. That was another motivating factor. And last but not least, it comes down to the biggest factor, which of course most people hate doing, is paying tax. Why am I going to work Monday and Tuesday for the government, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for myself? It just doesn't make sense. When there's countries out there that are more than enough as a lifestyle. Think Dubai, think Hong Kong, think Singapore, among others, that give you a much lower taxation rate, much lower, sometimes even zero. So I think it was a combination of a few different factors, but I think those probably are the key contributing factors that made you decide to want to get out of the UK.
Yeah. So the three things would be you never really felt that you belonged, or
Correct.
you don't really fit in. And the second part would be the weather. I completely agree. It's awful, but some people like the cold, some people like the rain, and some people don't like the heat as well. So like you said in the beginning, it depends what your priorities are.
Exactly.
And number three is the taxes, right? So
precisely,
a lot of countries at the moment, they are becoming very lucrative or have been very lucrative for a very long time. Like Dubai, you looked into Dubai, Singapore, there's some other countries.
Absolutely.
It's like I always see a country. So when it comes about tax, I always see it as a product, right? So you pay your taxes, but what do you actually get in return? Yeah. So I feel like I sound like an old man, but long time ago, when I had just moved into the UK, that was like 2007, I used to get a lot for my tax. I felt secure, the healthcare was better, and just lifestyle was much better in the UK.
Yeah.
But when you look at, for example, today or last year, you can see a massive decline. People are struggling.
There's a clear difference.
So I completely agree with you, understand it.
I mean, look, I left away again. So 2013 to 2014, I think I left 2024. Back then, it wasn't even anywhere near as bad as it is now. I still go back and I see family, of course, once a year, once every 2 years. A lot of people are struggling, even those that are working full-time jobs, partner working full-time job as well. By the time you pay for the kids' school fees, you pay the taxation, insurance, energy bills, your rental, your mortgage, etc., you're back to square one again. You're back to zero. These same people back in the day were making a very good living. Back in the day, people weren't struggling like this, even doing the same job, doing the same thing. Their lifestyle hasn't changed, but they just can't keep up with the rising prices.
Yeah.
And that's a global
one thing you said, sorry?
I was saying that's a global thing. Prices have gone up across the globe everywhere. The difference is in other countries, the wage is slightly higher and the taxation is lower. So your disposable income at the end of the day is higher.
Yeah. Inflation depends also where inflation hit most. I was reading, I don't know if it's true, but Turkey was like 50% inflation or 80%, something like really, really crazy, really high.
Yeah.
So in terms of, just for context, you said family, you have a partner, you have kids?
No.
Because you just mentioned.
No. Say with family and kids, it makes it a hell of a lot worse. It makes it a lot tougher for you to be able to do this kind of traveling is the point I was making. Yeah,
just to clarify. Okay, so when you were headhunted, what was your first thoughts?
I had no issues. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a scam. I wanted to make sure that it was a real company, etc. Because it just seemed too good to be true, Mario. Right? You put yourself in my shoes. You're minding your own business on a random day. You're sat at work at your office. You're getting email saying, "Hey, we love your CV. We want to give you a job for something you've never applied for." And it gets obviously your natural defenses up. I was going to do my research, make sure it was legitimate, etc. After I met my hiring manager at the time, she actually came out and met me in London. So I met her in London in the W Hotel, actually. And ever since I met her, she gave me a bit more of a calmness. I applied for it. As soon as I got the paperwork, official paperwork from the Singapore government, that was all I needed to know. And I was on the next flight out there.
Wow, that's crazy. So tell us your thought process. So, because at the beginning, I assume apply for the job, see if I get it, and then I think
Yeah.
about it whether I move or
I
not.
didn't
This is what.
apply.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
okay, so let's get headhunted. Okay, just do the interview, and if they say yes, then I think about whether I should move or not.
No, I was ready to go. I was ready to leave London. I was, at that point in time, I was probably living in London about a year and a half ish. You know, obviously been raised in Brighton my whole life. I lived in London for a year prior to that, and a year and a half during the Morningstar sort of work time periods. And I was ready to go, man. Like I wasn't excited with London. You know, I lived in London. Again, I was a fresh graduate making, I don't know, £24,000, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's £2,000 a month. By the time I get paid for my train, I paid for my food, my rent, I'm down to zero again. What did I have to lose? You know, I was 24 years old. They're going to give me they're going to give me the same, if not more money. I can't remember, but it wasn't, you know, I wasn't feeling any difference with regards to the funding. They were going to pay for my accommodation and give me some additional cash for my salary. And then of course, commission on top because it was a sales role. It was a no-brainer. I was like, I have nothing to lose. Worst case scenario, I can come back and get another job. So as soon as I got given the job, I was like, all right, sign me up. And yeah, the rest is history, really.
Actually, something similar happened to me in 2013. I was headhunted by a company in Ireland, Republic of Ireland, in Dublin. So I can completely understand how you felt and the move and all of that. So the question is, if someone is in your position, okay, you say yes to the move, you accept the job. Do you actually need a lot of money to move to a place like Singapore?
It depends, honestly. It depends on the circumstances. Like I didn't need lots of money to move because my company is paying for my rents. They're paying for they're paying, of course, give me a salary to get by, and that salary was enough for me to, you know, live a decent lifestyle as a you know, as a fresh graduate living in Singapore. So no, honestly, you do need a lot of money. Yes, of course, you need some money just for the first month to get by because you're not going to get paid until the end of the month. But my flights are paid for, the visa was paid for, everything was paid for. So no, you didn't really need a lot of money. Although again, nowadays Singapore is a lot more expensive. So you're going to have to make sure obviously the package is good enough to make sure that you can get by and survive.
Right. Okay. So you didn't have to have like 3 months deposit for your apartment because the company paid for it.
Company paid for it all. Exactly. Exactly. The company paid for it all. But yes, I mean, obviously once that company the portion was done and went solo, and yes, you have to pay the deposits up front. You know, 1 month deposit, 1 month's rent if it's a year contract, or 2 months deposit if it's a 2-year contract. That's how it works in Singapore.
Right. Okay. So tell us about the steps. So you accept the job. So you said you had to apply for a visa.
Correct.
I assume you're a British citizen. So what steps did you have to make?
Yeah. Well, actually, you know, the company did it all for me. All I did was just, you know, give them my my university degree, give them my CV showing my experience. I had to just show them my passport, of course. I had to do a police clearance check, so I've got no criminal record, that kind of stuff, and a full medical. Make sure you're healthy and, of course, not bringing any pathogens into the country. Then I just gave it to my employer at the time, who just applied for my pass. And actually, I got rejected the first time. Well, my visa got rejected. And they had to appeal it, and they filled it, and then maybe like 3 weeks later, it got approved, and up I went to Singapore. Actually, it's not very easy nowadays to get I mean, it wasn't easy back then either, and now even harder to get a work permit for Singapore, purely because the wages have increased. So in order to get a visa, you have to have a minimum threshold that you need to meet. And then I think it was $2,000. Now, if I'm not mistaken, $7,000 or $8,000. So the minimum really for a foreigner to get a visa to work in Singapore, I believe it's around $7,000 or $8,000 these days.
Wait, so you have to pay $7,000, $8,000 for the visa, or your salary has to be?
Pay this. Yes, the salary has to be a minimum of.
Wow. Okay. So is that like
even higher? Finance. If I'm not mistaken, if you're older than 45, as a foreigner working in finance, they need to pay you a minimum of $10,000 a month.
Right.
And they're making it harder and harder.
Is it because like it's a lot of people move there? It's a tough market now, or
well, look, it's the same as everywhere in the world, right? Everybody's complaining. People are coming in and taking their jobs. Singapore is no different to that. So the way to control it is say, okay, well, we're only bringing in foreign talent, people who can actually bring talent and bring an added value to the economy of Singapore. So therefore, the likelihood if somebody is bringing value, they're going to be a high-paid, skilled worker. Therefore, the lower paid salary jobs, you're not going to get a work permit for a foreigner to do those.
But that's actually personally, I think it's a good idea because
absolutely,
it's really good for the economy. It's like when you go back to the country being a product. So if you're selling a very cheap product, you are attracting certain type
People,
of customers,
absolutely.
people.
Absolutely. Look, Singapore is doing it the right way, but the problem is you need to find a balance. The reason why is because Singapore rely heavily on foreign labor for things like their construction, things like their housekeeping, their maids, etc. Yeah. So the same system can't apply to both because, of course, the maids and these construction workers are not getting paid near enough anything, whereas the foreign talent on the other side are getting paid thousands of dollars. So it can't be a catch-all, you see. This is why it's a bit of a hypocritical, to say the least. You know, like, oh no, we can't be bringing all these foreign taking our jobs. But then again, nobody wants to do these million jobs that are available in the lower end of the scale. They'd rather, of course, outsource it to the Philippines, outsource it to Vietnam, etc.
Right. Yeah. I remember Brexit, the similar situation happened, you know, all the truck drivers, the lorry drivers, and
Yeah.
remember the petrol station situation, we had to queue up at petrol stations. And were you there? Brexit was
No.
2015. I think you already had left, right?
I already left,
Yeah. So we had WhatsApp groups. Oh, this petrol station has no queues. Okay, let's go there. So
Crazy.
I completely understand what you're saying. And so, okay, so you decide you're moving. So how did you tell your family and your friends? What was their first reaction?
Well, the first day I was already living in London at that time, right? So I already left my family and my friends back on Brighton. So I think it was an easier transition. You know, if I was leaving from my home, straight to another country, it would have been a harder sell. But again, I mean, I was an adult at that time. It was just, hey guys, it wasn't permission. It was, hey guys, I'm moving to Singapore next month. It was something like that. They were very happy about it. You know, mom and dad, like, no, you're not going anywhere. But as I said, I was an adult, I made my own decision, and I packed my bags and I went. And then that also gave them an excuse to come back to Asia, because they'd never been to Asia at that point in time. So then they came back to Singapore. Via that, they've now been to Thailand, they've been to Indonesia, you know, they've been all over Asia now as well. So it wasn't just a win for me, it was a win for the whole family.
I don't know about your family. It seems like to enjoy traveling. I used to live 20 minutes from my parents.
Yeah.
In Worthing, and they lived in Brighton, and to get them over was hard enough. So
yeah, and getting them out of the country, everyone's always happy to fly out, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it really. So headhunted, decided, all right, here we go, I'm gonna go. So I packed my bags, moved back to Brighton just to take whatever the stuff I had from London. And then immediately repacked. Next couple of days, I was out on the plane on the way to Singapore. And to be honest, it's probably an easier introduction into the expat lifestyle because, of course, Singapore used to be part of the UK colony back in the day. So therefore, everybody speaks English. The street signs are in English. The roads are the same as the UK. Everything looks very familiar. So it's a very, very easy introduction into the expat lifestyle, and very easy introduction into Asia. Had I gone straight to China, for example, it would have been a completely different experience. You know, going to Singapore, it would be very, very, very easy. So similar to, I guess, if we live in the UK, to go to Dubai rather than go to Egypt.
Yeah. That would have been my next question. Did you have any cultural shocks when you moved?
Yes.
I mean, it helps when a lot of signs and shops are in English, but tell me, like, maybe a couple of cultural shocks you had when you...
I mean, honestly, there wasn't too many. The one thing that I actually enjoyed about Singapore was the openness with regards to how people eat together. So when you go to Singapore, they have these things called hawker centers. These hawker centers are like outdoor bazaars where you have like a sheltered kind of open area where you have hundreds and hundreds of different stalls. One might sell chicken wings, one might sell noodles, one might sell chicken rice, one selling duck, one selling drinks, one selling desserts. So every store sells different items. And then in the middle are all these tables that are for everybody to share, everybody to use. And let's say we go as a group of 5 of us, maybe I want Indian, you want Chinese, you want this, everybody grabs their food, everybody sits down together and eats together. Yeah. So it's more of a sharing and open kind of community feel to it, rather than every person to themselves. You know, right? Every restaurant has its own page. No, more of an open community. So that was, I guess, not a culture shock, but it was a nice thing to see, you know, because nowadays you don't really see these things. Again, you go to Middle Eastern countries, you will see this kind of thing. People all out and about, eating together, drinking coffee, whatever, smoking shisha. You see that in Middle Eastern countries. But in Europe, you very rarely tend to see these kind of things. So I think that was one thing that I was very impressed with about Singapore. We can't say there was anything that shocked me too much, apart from the food, of course. When you go to Singapore, you'll see that the food sometimes is... that's the best I'm looking for, is unidentifiable, to put it the best way. Sometimes you don't know what you're eating, especially if you've just come from the longer you spend there, the more you get to know what all the food is, and of course you actually then start enjoy it for what it is. But to go out and see ducks and chickens and stuff hung up from hooks and whatnot, ready prepared, is not something that I personally had ever seen because I'd never been to Asia at the time. But actually, all over Asia, it's very common. You see that everywhere. So I think that was, I guess, a little bit of a shock, although I wouldn't really call it a shock, more of an experience.
But did you like eat something you thought it was something and then it turned out to be something else?
Well, luckily or not, like I said, everyone speaks English, so it's not that bad, luckily. And when I went to China, probably. I can't be too sure what I did eat, but in Singapore, no. Luckily, that never happened.
Okay. But that's the good thing, as you said, is that they kind of have this community feel. So they all eat together in one big area. It's, in a way, it's really nice because it's like socializing and you feel like you're part of the country, you're part of the community, but also for other people that want more privacy, I'm sure there's like quiet areas, restaurants. And
yeah, look, if you want to have a quiet area, you can just go to a restaurant, like you say. This is more of just a community vibe. So everywhere you go, you'll see these hawker centers. These are like for locals to go and eat cheap food together, without breaking the bank.
That's really nice, actually. I wasn't aware of that. But it's also a cultural thing, like you said, is where people are open. And do you feel like the Singaporean people, do you say Singaporean?
Singaporean, yeah.
Yeah, Singaporean. Do you feel like they're like nice people? If I compare them with like Japanese, they have a reputation, very respectful, very how were they?
Yeah, look, I would say they're not too dissimilar. I mean, everyone knows Japanese people are very nice and very welcoming, etc. Singapore is, I guess, pretty similar because Singapore is a very multiracial country in itself. Singapore is made up of Malays, Indians, and Chinese, so sort of three main races. And also the three main languages, So I think it was pretty easy to kind of, get into that mix. But having said at the beginning, not really feeling welcome, not feeling, at home, it wasn't too dissimilar in Singapore, to be honest. Purely comes down to the whole foreigners taking our job situation. If I'm a foreigner that's on holiday, you've had no issue with me. A foreigner expat living there and making money and, taking jobs and high roles or high positions, that's where you may feel that you're not as welcome as you'd have thought. The longer I spend there, the more my social media exchange to loads of Singapore views, of Singapore commenters and stuff, is when you start to see that a bit more prevalent.
But you have that everywhere, right?
Absolutely. And again, it wasn't, of course, all of them, but it was mainly the older generations, which again, you can't really blame them. And from the outside perspective, you do see as if, the country's been overtaken by foreigners coming in, taking jobs. But what really lacks you, the other side is that without these foreigners, these foreign companies may not be there. The economy may not move forward as it has been. Singapore, what it's achieved in the 60 years, in very short history that it has, is nothing short of amazing. What Lee Kuan Yew had achieved for the country is the prime minister who initially founded Singapore, I guess, if you like to look at it that way. What he's achieved in such a short time span is incredible, and that was because he could see these things, say, okay, we need this foreign talent. We need it, but we need it in a way that we can control it and make sure they abide by our laws and integrate into the Singaporean way of life.
Okay. And now, say someone is thinking to move from the UK to Singapore, or if you were talking to your younger self before you moved, give us some advice, some insights, what to prepare.
Somewhere else is going to be remote work. That is going to be the easiest way for an individual to be able to live and work somewhere else. Because that way you can just go as a tourist. You can just go get a normal tourist visa, if you like, and move from place to place. If you want to go set up a business there, that's a whole other ball game. So if you want to have that flexibility or that I guess, location agnostic, as they say, then I think remote work or some sort of digital work, the only way you'll be able to do that. As a fresh individual graduate, to be able to get a job now, a country like Singapore, would be very tough. Very, very tough. Yeah, because as I mentioned earlier on with regards to the visa requirements and the minimum salary expectations, that would become very hard to do. If you are somebody who has experience, somebody who has a degree, then that's a much easier way to go around it. Singapore will look at your qualifications. Does this person have the correct qualifications for this role you're hiring him for? Does he have the experience? Yeah, because not only do they have to, make sure that they're hiring you on that merit, but they also have to, regardless of the role, advertise it locally for 2 weeks first before they can hire a foreigner. So they need to show that Mario and his qualifications and his experience is better than the local counterpart that they could hire. You see? So it becomes a little bit tougher to do. So my advice for somebody who wants to leave the UK, easiest route, or the path of least resistance, is going to be doing your own thing or working remotely via a digital role of some sort, whether you're in marketing, whether you're, I don't know, a data analyst, or whether you're a developer, something like that. So technology and IT is going to be your path for least resistance, I think, to get out.
Amazing. I can't believe how tough that is to prove that they advertise their job for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
To prioritize the local people before they can advertise somewhere else.
Absolutely. And look, a lot of people will work around it in another way, right? They'll hire the person first, then they put the job role for 2 weeks, say, oh, we couldn't find anybody, and then hire the foreigner, right? And this is the reason why they're trying to clamp down on these things.
Yeah. But also where there's a will, there's a way, right? Let's say
Absolutely.
someone manages to land a job in Singapore. What would you say should be the minimum salary they should accept
nowadays
to Singapore?
If they're completely alone, no family, if they're completely alone, individual person, I would say to live an okay lifestyle, probably 7,000, 8,000 Singapore dollars a month. 10,000 should be really where you want to look at. 10,000 a month, 120,000 Singapore dollars per year. That's probably your threshold.
And what's that in British pounds? I haven't checked the currency.
You can roughly half it. No, you can probably say about 6,000 Singapore dollars will get you,
Right.
6,000 pounds will get you $10,000.
Right.
Give or take.
And the tax structure there, you said it was really low there.
Yeah, so it's very, very good. The tax here, the maximum is roughly about 20%, if I'm not mistaken. That's your top end. The average that most people pay probably between 10, 12, 13%, which is substantially better than the 40% charge in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that including all the, do they have a national insurance, other deductions?
No.
So it's 10 to 12% tax, and then at the end of
so you pay the tax. You pay the tax in arrears. So I paid 2025 tax in 2026. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you get all your salary. 2025, you get all your money. Then next year you start paying in installments every single month for your tax for the previous year.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one thing to remember. So when you leave, so when I left Singapore, I had to clear my outstanding tax from the year before. So a lot of people get themselves into trouble because they spend their money, then they come to leave and they don't have any money to pay the tax bill, Right. Because you're paying in arrears. Okay. That's one thing that they can get you. But yes, 10 to 12% roughly what you're looking at paying. But one thing to note, of course, is that as a foreigner, you don't really have any insurance. You don't have any national insurance. You don't have any medical care. You don't have anything of such. So you need to get your own insurance policy. Yeah. So of course, this will add on to your overall costs of living. But you got to remember the amount of money you're making is probably going to be higher, and the amount of tax you're paying is substantially lower.
Well, so I assume it's all privatized, right? So if you go to a GP or to a hospital, it's all privatized. But you can take out the insurance?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I used to do for a living. It's sell insurance and investments. That's how I initially got to Singapore. But yes, so there is government hospitals and government doctors, etc. But as a foreigner, you probably wouldn't use it. You probably have an insurance policy, a private medical policy, and use the private hospitals, because Singapore is very well regarded for its medical care. In fact, you get a lot of medical tourism and people coming from the region, from Asia to Singapore, specifically for the medical care.
Right. Okay, so give us a breakdown. So if someone is single, moving to Singapore, tell us, so you give us a range of the salary, the monthly salary.
Yeah.
How much is rent, expenses, food?
Yeah.
All of that. Just brief.
Yeah. So look, that is going to come down to the individual. Yeah? I've got friends paying $15,000, $16,000 a month in rent. I've got friends paying $2,000 a month in rent. Yeah. So it's going to come down to the individual. It's going to come down to the situation, the family, the lifestyle, your income, everything. Right. So it's not, when it comes to rent, as you know, even in the UK, it's not one size fits all. It comes down to the individual. Some people, for example, the construction workers, they are living in dormitories. They just get a bed inside of a dormitory for pennies. Right. Super cheap. On the other side, you have the high flying entrepreneurs, the CEOs, the C-suite level, etc., lawyers, blah, 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 who are living on Sentosa Island paying $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month in rent. Yeah. So you can't really put a blanket sort of price on that.
As a normal person.
Yeah, so I said,
a normal person.
Perspective, yeah. You're probably looking at a one-bedroom apartment. It's probably about 3,500, 4,000 Singapore dollars today, or at least it was a couple of years ago.
Wow. Okay.
And that's not even in the center, there's a little bit just outside the center, but yeah, 3,500, 4,000 Singapore dollars a month is your rent.
Sounds a lot.
It's a lot of money. You got to remember that Singapore is a tiny place, so they cannot build more than, what they have space for. So if you look at Singapore real estate, it's some of the most expensive real estate in the world, and there's a kicker to it as well. Recently, or a couple of years ago, added a taxation on their stamp duty for foreigners of 60%. 60%. Right. So even if you wanted to buy one, you most likely wouldn't, because you just get ripped off by paying 60%. But it goes to show the level of wealth in that country, that even at 60%, they're still selling properties like they're cakes.
I see. It's similar to Switzerland. It's a small country as well, and property prices are sky high.
Absolutely. Yeah. So look, rentals are expensive nowadays, but if you wanted to live cheaply, of course you could do. You can live on the outskirts. You could probably pay an apartment for 1,000, 1,500, or you can even get what's known as a HDB, which is Housing Development Board, which is basically like council houses in the UK. Just a council estate, basically like a massive block of flats. They all look not very similar. They all look the same. So this is just a council government housing that is subsidized and much, much cheaper. Yeah, no frills kind of apartments. Mm-hmm. I know it's probably costs $600, $700, $800 a month for a one bedroom. So again, this depends on the lifestyle. So accommodation is not cheap. Food and beverage.
So let's say 6,000. Sorry to drop. So 6,000. So let's say salary. Then you have 1,000.
Yeah, look, to make the numbers 2,000. Make the numbers easier. Let's just focus on somebody who's doing a decent job in Singapore and earning at an average of 10,000 Singapore dollars a month. I think that is probably where most expats who have experience will be, if not higher. Especially nowadays, anything lower than that, you're going to be in a bit of pickle. You're not going to be saving much money. So let's assume 10,000. Out of that 10,000, let's say 4,000 has gone on your bills and in your rent and accommodation. Yeah. Then if you drink, if you want to eat out, or you're cooking at home, all these are going to, ascertain what your lifestyle is like and how much you spend. You can go and buy a single pint in Singapore, $15, So if you're a heavy drinker,
sounds a lot.
Your money is going to go very, very fast. If you don't drink at all, or you drink in hawker centers, as I mentioned earlier, the open air food establishments, those hawker centers, they also sell cheaper beer. It's not a bar, it's just like a open air market. Those will cost you $5 to $7 a pint, rather than the 15 you're paying in a nice bar. Food within a hawker center might cost you $2. Whereas if you go to a nice place, it's going to cost you $20, $30, $40. You see? So it really comes down to the lifestyle that you want to lead. But I would say, again, coming from my own experience, somebody who lives in Singapore, most people do not cook because the hawker centers are very, very cheap. But most locals specifically will eat out at these hawker centers. So look, if we're going to look at an expat will probably spend $4,000 in rent, maybe another $2,000 a month in foods and drink and going out, etc. And then you have your transport and your experiences and whatnot, which add on to that. And then of course things like your tax and things like your health insurance. So when I said 10,000 is probably where you want to be, that then allows you to save a little bit of money as well. Maybe a couple of grand every month could go into your savings and towards your investment.
Because this is absolutely. So that's something also wanted to mention. How much are you saving? Because at some point when you move out of a country where the salaries are much higher because less tax or not to no tax, it's then not how much your expenses are, but how much you're saving per month.
Absolutely. Look, I used to be a financial advisor. Yeah, so we haven't touched upon, what I was doing in Singapore, etc., and what I'm doing in Thailand, just to give you a bit of context. So I used to be a financial advisor. I used to advise people on exactly what to do with their disposable income. So every single day I'd sit down with multiple people and look at their income and expenditure. How much you got coming in, how much you got going out, what is your goals, where you want the kids to study, blah, 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 blah. And over the sort of 11 years or 10 years, whatever, me doing this career, the number one thing that we saw was not the lack of people's ability to make money, but the lack of people's ability to save and to control their finances. I met people making more money than a lot of people will ever make in their lifetime in a single year. By the end of the year, they're left with nothing because they're living above their means. Their expenditure is much higher than their income. Yeah. And that is the number one root cause of a lot of people, if you look at the UK, have no money. Because people usually work Monday to Friday and spend it Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then reset again on the Monday morning again. So people are living way above their means. People do not have the knowledge or the know-how to control their finances. It is not something that is taught to people. Whereas if you go to poorer countries and you have a look at how they manage their finances, they all have some sort of saving, some sort of rainy day funds, whether it's Indians, whether it's Middle Eastern, whether it's Africans. They always think about the rainy days. Yeah. So for me,
Yes,
the
but
most
I
important
must
thing, like you said,
say,
it's not about how much money you got coming in, but how much money
yeah,
you can save.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
man, give me a
But I
second.
do, yeah, sure.
Lost the audio for a second there. Sorry. Yeah. Got you back.
No worries. We can always cut things out. Don't worry. So that's a very important point you mentioned. It's how much you can save. And you, as a financial advisor, you have seen people earning probably millions, but
Absolutely.
saving very little. But also, me living now in Switzerland, I can now see and understand why sometimes things are like that.
Yeah.
Because when you get to that level, people start comparing. They have
Yeah.
to hold a reputation. They have a reputation. They have to have a nicer car. They have to have a
Yeah.
nicer house, apartment. So there's more pressure. So
Absolutely.
what would you say to those people that have to have all those things,
Yeah.
like fashion, the brands,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the biggest of everything? So what would you say, if I was one of your clients, how
Yeah.
would you react to me?
Well, number one, these things never end. Yeah. There's never an end to it. You can always get something bigger and better and more shiny. And there's always going to be somebody who's bigger and better than you. Right. So the matter of the fact is, you can continue chasing these things for the rest of your life to be the best and the baddest and the biggest, but there's always going to be somebody bigger and better than you. That's just life. Let's face it. Yeah. Unless you are the number one, wealthiest person in the world. I think it might be Elon right now. I'm not too sure. There's always going to be someone bigger and better than you at whatever it might be. You need to focus on you. You need to focus on what you do and stay in your lane. There's a very famous saying that thief is the comparison. Sorry, comparison is the thief of all joy. Yeah. If you continue comparing yourself to
Wow.
the next person, you're never going to be happy. Never. Whereas if you take a minute to just take a breath back and think about what your life is and what you've achieved and what you have, you're going to be a much, much happier individual. And again, the environment massively helps. Taking yourself out of an environment where you feel compelled to compare to the individual next to you might, of course, change that mindset as well. And with all honesty, taking myself out of that environment in the UK and putting myself in the environment of Singapore, where I was surrounded by just winners, surrounded by people who just want to win, people who want to do the best for what their 30, 40 years of life that they have remaining in this planet. They don't want to sit there thinking every day, am I wasting time? Right? Yes, they're still comparing themselves to other people, but they're comparing themselves to other people in a way of how can I achieve this? In a way of a mentor, like I said, would look up to their mentee, right? Or sorry, mentee looks up to their mentor. In a way of how do I get there? Rather than a comparison, rather than, oh, but he's got a Rolex and he's driving a Ferrari. No, why is he? What did he do to get there? How did he get there? Asking those right questions to get yourself on that same level playing field. Rather than comparing, actually analyzing, thinking, okay, what am I doing differently? How do I achieve this? So again, having
Wow.
spent the last 13 years surrounded by people like that, my mindset has shifted. The conversations that I have, people that are around me have shifted. So when I go back, actually, funny enough, to the UK, sometimes I feel like I don't have any conversation to have with certain people. I feel like their lives have kind of stopped where they are in that track where I left it, but I've kind of taken a different path and we're no longer on the same playing field, especially.
That's something so important you mentioned, the relationships. And it was one of the points I wanted to mention to you because I felt it moving out. You
Yeah,
felt it as well. And yes, people that stay in the place for their whole life in the UK, in Brighton or wherever, working their whole life, becoming very successful, that's absolutely
yeah,
fine. We spoke about at the beginning, but when you move out, you make all these experiences, your mindset completely changes,
absolutely.
and your relationships changes as a result of that.
Yeah.
And how would you say your relationships have changed with your friends? I mean, your family is your family, right? But how did it change with your friends?
Well, for starters, I chose my friends based on my own merits. I chose my friends as an adult based on the things that I enjoy, based on the similarities that we share as me being an adult, rather than my friends at home were kind of chosen for me in a sense, right? Having been raised around church, being raised in this sort of community, your parents' friends are automatically your friends. All my friends are just people from the community who I was raised with. Forgetting that we were raised together, if you put us all in a room today, would I select those same friends today? Would they select me as their friend? Highly unlikely. highly unlikely, right? Just because your life experiences over the last 13 years, 14 years have obviously led to the person you are today. So there's different thoughts, there's different mentalities. When you meet people today as an adult, you automatically within seconds decide whether you like that individual or not. Within seconds, yeah. The more you get to speak to that person, the more you get to understand that person. You then understand whether this somebody is worth your time and whether they're somebody you want to be around, or whether you want them to be around you, right? That's something you make a decision for yourself as an adult. Whereas when you're back in your hometown, those friends you've known since day one, you've grown up with them, they may not necessarily be the right people for you. You've just grown around them. It's more habit than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. Am I worth your time?
Absolutely. Otherwise, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. But again, as bad as that sounds, as I said at the beginning of this phone call, time is money. Time is the currency of life. Why am I going to give my time or even just spend my time, what limited resource that we have on this planet, with people that I don't want to spend my time with? Why would I do that to myself?
Yeah.
I'm an adult. I can make decisions for myself. I'm not a tree that needs to remain planted in one place. Even trees these days don't stay in one place. I don't understand why most humans do. Especially looking at Americans, most of them don't even have a passport to travel, even if they wanted to.
Well, America is quite a big country, so
they just internally.
Yeah. But I understand what you're saying, and also when you get to a certain amount of money, then what you say exactly, time is the currency.
Absolutely,
and that's why so many wealthy people buying private jets, right? They call it a time machine.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
they're not going to spend their time waiting for the plane and go through customs and blah, blah, blah. It's funny you mentioned that because I had this thought the other day. Like, this is why most people fly private if they can afford to, because their time is money. They got them all the money in the world. They don't need the money. They need the time. And that you can't buy.
Yeah. It's you have to work hard to get to that level. Because I had a weak moment. I looked into how much private jets are just from Zurich to Barcelona.
Yeah.
It was like 10 grand just one way. So I was like,
flights. Yeah. Well, again, it depends on the value you put on your time, right? So for Elon, for example, 10,000 for a private jet is, you probably just buy his own if he doesn't already have one. But the point I'm making, it's all relative to the individual.
Exactly. I've seen that video with Jeff Bezos going into the factory. And then have you seen it where Jeff Bezos has a short conversation with the factory worker, and then there's the numbers, how much he earns per second going up compared to the factory worker.
Yeah, I have seen this actually, yes. I have seen this.
He just walked past him and it was like a crazy number.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now the final question, so we can wrap up Singapore.
Sure.
If you go back in time, would you say Singapore was worth it? Would you do it again?
Absolutely.
And how would you rate your experience?
The experience is amazing. The experience itself is invaluable, right? So having moved out at such a young age, and I said where I'm very impressionable, having met the people that I met is also what gave me the mindset that I have today. So yes, I would definitely do it again. Would I make some slight changes? Of course I would. Everyone would like to make some changes to what they've done. And that would immediately be me starting the businesses that I started sooner. Yeah. To start taking those years sooner. So as I mentioned, of course, I was employed first by my headhunter in London. That lasted about a year and a half, if I'm not mistaken, before I quit to start with my first business in Singapore. So I think the thing I'll do different next time is to go straight out there and start business immediately. Because again, from what I've been doing for the last sort of 13 years, that for me is what excites me. It's what gets me out of bed in the morning. A 9-to-5 job just doesn't do that for me. But absolutely 100%, it was an absolutely amazing experience. And had I not done that, I wouldn't be where I am today. So as I said at the beginning of the call, I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. And maybe if my reason wasn't really to get to Singapore, maybe it was to be here in Thailand where I am today. But not taking anything away from the 10 years that I had. It was an absolutely amazing experience. And I also got to travel, of course, all over Asia during that time period. So there's definitely nothing I have to regret with regards to that decision.
10 years in Singapore, I bet the time flew like, you look back, it was like, where did the time go?
Absolutely. When you say time flies when you're having fun. And fun we definitely were having. So
would like to jump into your rapid fire. So I would like to ask you 5-6 questions. You can only answer them in one sentence. Are you ready?
Talk about putting a man on the spot. All right, let's give it a go.
Yeah, right. If you could give your younger self one sentence of advice before moving abroad, whether it's Singapore or Thailand or wherever, what would it be?
One sentence advice moving abroad. I guess just jump in head first. Yeah. Don't
Sounds
don't
good.
try and don't try and keep one foot in, one foot out. I've lived in Singapore for 10 years before I left. And the number of people I saw come and go were plentiful. And the reason why I personally think is because they didn't really submit to the idea of being an expat or living abroad. They always had in the back of mind, this is just a short vacation, a short working holiday, and I'm going to go back and pick up life where I left off. So for me, my advice would be jump in first, give it 110%. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you can always move back. But don't have that moving back safety net in the back of your mind, because that might stop you from achieving what you need to achieve to stay there.
Next question. Which country changed you most, Singapore or Thailand? I know we haven't talked about Thailand much, but which one would it be?
For sure, I'd say Thailand. The reason why is because Singapore for me was home. Singapore was where I worked, where I made my money, is where I lived. Thailand, the Philippines, Cambodia, Vietnam, all these places that I visited, places I went on holiday. But Thailand was the one that I kept coming back to 4 times a year sometimes. Yeah. So it was the first time that I saw Asia properly. That was my first trip outside of Singapore. That was in Asia. Yeah. So my first trip to Asia was, of course, when I packed my bags and I moved to Singapore. That was my first time to enter Singapore. The first time to enter Asia. Singapore isn't really Asia in my books. Having traveled all over Asia now, Singapore's a bracket all by itself. Yeah. My first solo trip, was to Bangkok, Thailand. And that was the first time that I saw the hustle and bustle of Asia. It's the first time that I saw the real Asia. The old buildings, the dirty roads, the noise, the smells, everything. And traveling to Thailand and traveling to the islands of Thailand specifically, that's what made me realize what's more important in life. And I said in the beginning, for me, I was always money motivated. Always money motivated. For me, I was always driven by finances. Traveling to these parts of the world like Thailand made me realize that people that are happiest have the least amount of money. I see these guys on the beach during the day. They are working as hostel employees or whatever. During the night, they might be throwing fire. That's kind of their evening gig. So they're just doing it for the love of being alive, for the love of life, rather than to make money. Nobody's making money working in a hostel or juggling fire. But they are the happiest people because they're not in that pursuit of money. They're just trying to live their lives in the best way they know how. That's, I guess, what
and
changed.
very simple.
And I know that's a lot more than one sentence, but I think for that answer, that requires a little bit more detail on the bone.
Right. What do you miss from the UK, and what do you not miss from the UK? You lived there pretty much most of your life.
Yeah.
So what do you miss there?
From 1.5 to 24, I'd say. Well, I think obviously the thing that I miss the most about the UK is obviously going to be family. Yeah, being away from family is not an easy thing. I think for some people it's easier than others. I said at the beginning of the call, my family might sound a bit heartless because of how easy I found it to be away from everybody, or at least that's how they perceive it. But honestly, Mario, it's just when you are stuck in life or doing life, things that are out of your initial environment, so your immediate environment, tend to be out of mind slightly. Yeah, out of mind, as they say. So I think family is probably going to be that the most important thing that I miss from the UK. Second to that is, of course, your food options, places that we used to go very often. Your regular spots. Even to things like, for example, the sort of UK chocolates and Nando's sauce, so these kind of things, which I just found a UK store online that delivers to Thailand. So I buy the things like jelly tots every now and then. I buy a bottle of Nando's sauce and Jaffa cakes, small things that remind you of home.
That's amazing.
Not so much the country, not so much the lifestyle, but the people and some of the goods, some of the foods.
So you miss the food, the family, the snacks, the chocolates, but you don't miss the country itself. And you mentioned the weather earlier.
Yeah, the country just doesn't do it for me. Once you've lived out and you've seen different cultures and different countries and different lifestyles and stuff. And then you come back and then you reevaluate or you analyze and compare. And again, of course, I said comparison is a thief of all joy. But this is just, I'm comparing my hometown to where I live now. So my old home to my new home. And it doesn't make sense for me to stay somewhere that is not as good as where I was previously. You always trade up in life, not trade down. So you have to do some sort of comparisons. And the comparison is, of course, people are miserable in the UK, especially in London. I worked in London for 2.5 years in total. People are riding to work in the tube in the morning. Nobody's speaking to nobody. Everyone is annoyed to be there. Everybody's cold. Everybody's miserable. There is no sense of camaraderie. There's no sense of teams or people actually being nice to each other. You don't see that. You just don't see that. And you are a product of your environment at the end of the day. So for me, the UK environment just doesn't do it for me.
If you had to describe your journey in 3 words, how would you describe it?
Describe my journey in 3 words. Do they have to connect those 3 words? Or is it 3 random words?
Can be 3 random words.
Well, I mean, for starters, it's obviously been very exciting. Yeah, because you don't know what's to come. Yeah, so nobody gets excited about something they already know. Be excited about the unknown, about what is going to happen, about I wonder what is going to happen if I turn left here. So that sense of excitement has always been there because of the lifestyle that it is an expat lifestyle. So I think exciting for sure is going to be one. Rewarding is going to be a second word that I'd have to use. And I don't mean rewarding just in a financial sense, although of course it has been pretty good, but I mean rewarding in an education sense, in a self-learning sense, in understanding myself and what it is that I want out of life and the people who I want to be surrounded with and the kind of characters that I want, my other friends to be around, if that makes sense. I'm a people's person. So I introduce people to other people. All my friends around me know each other because of me. I'm kind of the one in the middle. So I don't want to introduce people to people if I think these are not the individuals that, I want to be holding close in my circle. So I think that is probably another aspect. And the last aspect, I guess we can use difficult in a sense. Yeah. And the reason why I'm using difficult is just purely because of the lifestyle that I chose by going down the route of trying to do businesses. Yeah. This is why I'm using that word. So it's not been difficult it's not been difficult for me to, go and move countries and do what I've been doing, but it's just been a difficult path because of the fact that I have been trying to set up businesses as a foreigner in foreign countries. That makes things a little bit more difficult to achieve. And that is the only reason why I'm choosing difficult. And for lack of any other.
You know what? I love it because especially 2 words you put there, I don't think they can live without each other. Is rewarding and difficult.
Yeah. It goes back to that risk reward trade-off, right?
Exactly. So
nothing in life worth having is.
Yeah, absolutely. If it was easy, everyone can do it.
Absolutely.
This is what they say,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agreed.
So, that was rapid fire. I mean, that was more than 1 sentence each, but I love the depth of it. You gave a lot of details, and I think for anyone that's watching, they will now get some more context to Thailand now, which you are currently living.
Correct.
Obviously, the first obvious question, why did you move from Singapore to Thailand?
Yeah.
And why Thailand?
So, as I mentioned earlier, all right, Thailand has always had a place in my heart. So from the first time I traveled there, I was like, this place is incredible. I love Thailand. I love the food. I love the people, the environment. The islands, of course, are beautiful. I never fully had any intention of living there, though. Because again, coming from London, moving to Singapore, I've always liked busy cities. The older I got, however, the more that mentality changed. The more I started liking my peace and quiet. I like the luxury islands versus the party scene. So I think COVID was really the instigating factor for me to leave Singapore. So during COVID, Singapore locked down pretty hefty. So it's 3 months and pretty much us being locked down at home, not seeing any people. So I think that lockdown made me think, what is Singapore really offering me? Because honestly, at that time, I didn't realize, but I was in sort of like a luxury prison in a way. Yeah. And again, the people obviously watching this or that know Singapore will probably think I'm mad. But when you live there, you are stuck in that lifestyle. And by all means, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm saying it was an amazing time. I had an amazing, incredible lifestyle living in Thailand. Sorry, living in Singapore. But you don't take a minute to question it because you're too busy living life. And life was good, as I mentioned. We'd always be out for dinners or birthday parties or events or whatever. There was always something happening because you're living in a country that has probably about 500,000, 600,000 expats living. Yeah, huge population of expats. There's always events happening. There's always people out for a drink. There's always been out for dinners. There's always something going on. Whereas in the UK, it's 9 to 5, back home, maybe you go to the gym, you eat some food, spend time with family, and you reset the same thing again the next day. Yeah. Singapore had things new, had things always happening. You didn't feel like you were in that rut of that 9 to 5 life. Yeah. So the point I'm making with that is only once COVID happened and I was locked in my own house, did I then start thinking, okay, actually Singapore doesn't have that much to offer me anymore. I'm no longer partying. I'm no longer going out to these events. I'm now focused on business, etc. So at that stage in my life now, Singapore has nothing left to offer me.
So it was more like your mindset has changed after COVID because you have more time to think about your priorities, or maybe perhaps
Absolutely.
your priorities have changed.
Yeah.
So you said there's lots of going on. There's parties, there's people going out, a lot of expats
Yeah.
socializing, but that's a good thing, right?
Absolutely.
So if
Absolutely.
it's someone, yeah, if someone wants to move to Singapore and these are his priorities or her priorities, then yeah, by all means.
COVID just made me realize that there was more to life than just this lifestyle I was living. I was living a very good lifestyle, but it wasn't one for like the future. It wasn't one that's actually leading me to get to where I need to get to. So for me, I actually achieved my best financial year ever during COVID, the first year of COVID, because everybody was at home. I was able to get hold of clients. It was easier. So I realized that I actually worked better also in that environment. So one of my motivating factors to move from Singapore to Thailand was the fact that I'm going to be on my own. I'm going to be restarting again. Yeah. No friends, no family, nobody. I'm going to be on my own in Phuket, in Thailand. I got myself a small villa for myself and my dog, away from everybody else, just focused on my Muay Thai training, focused on my gym, and focused on my business. Yeah. So that for me was the motivating factor. That was one of the motivating factors. Another huge motivating factor, of course, was the fact that Singapore was getting super, super expensive. Yeah. So I could work remotely at that time. So why do I need to be based in a country where I'm paying, $4,000 a month in rent when I can get a 3-bedroom villa with my own swimming pool in Thailand for $1,500, $2,000, half the price? I don't need
Right.
to be
So
physical.
you were able to work from Thailand with your Singaporean job.
Correct. So that was the initial move. So initially I moved there whilst I still had my job as financial advisor, working remotely, flying back into Singapore once a month for a few days. So I did that for the first sort of about almost 1 year.
Wow.
And
Okay. And
yeah.
where did you stay? Where did you stay? Was it in a hotel when you went
No,
back?
so I got a yeah. So when I went back and to stay in a hotel, I'd stay with a friend. This depends on the scenario. But it's going to be for a couple of days, see my clients I need to see, and then fly back. But with everything else I conduct can be conducted via my laptop. I don't physically need to be there. But going back to see my team, see my boss at the time, to see my clients, was good while I was there. Just once every month for a couple of days, just to make sure they still know I'm around and I haven't really got anywhere too far away. Especially when you're managing people's finances, they want to make sure that you're still around and contactable.
So the main reason you chose Thailand was because you get so much more value for your money. For example, the rent, you said
Yeah,
1,500
I
for a
wouldn't say that was
3-bedroom villa, or
a reason, but I'd say that's one of the reasons. Money for sure was one of the reasons because the money goes a lot further. And of course, like I said, the lifestyle you can live with your funds is substantially better. But also at that time, I had started training Muay Thai a couple of years earlier. So that was one of my passions that I started. And of course, Muay Thai originates from Thailand. So it made sense for me to train in the source straight in Thailand. But the overall motivating factor, like I said, was the fact that I realized that I could work in a much better environment, being in sort of that alone environment in Thailand. I had a nice little villa to myself. My Muay Thai gym was 2 minutes up the road. my gym another 3 minutes up the road. I had my motorbike. So the lifestyle that I was trying to lead was very different than the lifestyle I had in Singapore. Yeah. And the one key thing that I've got to mention, of course, is that I was building a technology business behind the scenes, which is why I had to move out of Singapore. A lot
And
of
you
things
were
have
working still for a Singaporean company. So
correct.
how did you juggle all of that?
Yeah.
How did you, because living in Singapore, looking for a place in Thailand, then do the paperwork to be able to live in Thailand? Like, tell us about that journey.
Yeah, so look, it wasn't the easiest, but ultimately, again, being on my own meant I had a lot more time. I had a lot more time to focus on what I needed to do. So I'm the kind of guy that wakes up very, very early in the morning. I'm up usually at 5:45 in the morning. I'm in the gym by 6:15. By 7:30, most people haven't got out of bed. I've already done my exercise, had my breakfast, and walked my dog. Yeah. So that has always been the way. So even when I moved to Thailand, that continued to be the way. But yes, essentially managing your time efficiently was the most important thing. Luckily, I had my development team in Vietnam who were doing the dev work for our platform, so they were building that behind the scenes. So my input wasn't really that necessary to a large extent. They knew what they were doing. We'd have our meeting on a regular basis. My business partners would obviously also be overseeing those. So I didn't need to be there 100% of the time. So slowly but surely, as the business got more and more closer to launch, that's when I started to dial down my work and eventually left, of course, my employer and focused solely on the business.
When did you know that now it's time for anyone that wants to start a business and it's working full time? When did you know when to leave your full-time job to now focus on your business?
Well, look, I'm a firm believer in you cannot be a part-time entrepreneur. Just can't be. Yeah. If you want to succeed, you got to give it 110%. You got to give it all your effort that you possibly can. So in the initial part of the build, I didn't need to give it my effort because there was nothing for me to do. I'm not from a technology background. I'm from a finance background. So as long as the finances were being managed and the reporting was being kept up to date, that was my role being done. But as and when we got close to the launch, it then was going to require all my time and effort. Yeah. So it's at that point when we launched, that's when I dialed down the job and of course dialed up on the business.
Right. So when you were working full time while you and your team were working on the technology side of things, and then when we got closer to launch, this is where you had to leave your job to focus on the launch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
So do you want to tell us about your business?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, why not? Why not? This is why I'm here. This is what led me to Thailand in the beginning. But it's been a long road leading to where I am now. Yeah. So from financial advisory, I'm now CFO of a company known as Avideo. So just to give you a quick summary, Avideo is basically the world's first video creation platform in respect to personalized outreach videos. So we basically create like ad style videos that are personalized to the individual you're trying to reach, but we do this at scale. Right. So it just basically makes salesperson's life easier, the marketeer's life easier, your event manager's life easier. Essentially anything that would usually be in boring text format, but to a large mass audience, we can then convert this into video format, but personalize it to the individual level as well. I think that's the easiest way for me to explain it. I'm not sure if I did a good job of explaining that to you, Mario.
I mean, you did a good job, and the thing is, I know what it does because I've used it myself. So I've seen it. So it's really. I mean, I'm in sales myself, so I think it's brilliant. And
thank you.
I hope really it takes off for you guys, and it's already taken off. And
thank you.
Yeah, I wish you guys all the success. What have you sacrificed? Do you feel like you have sacrificed? Do you feel like you have missed out on anything building that business?
Look, I'm not going to say I've missed out on things just building the business, but I've missed out on things by choosing the lifestyle that I've chosen. By choosing the expat lifestyle, by choosing the entrepreneurial lifestyle, I've chosen, of course, to sacrifice things. I've chosen to sacrifice family and friends, right? The time that I would have spent, let's say I'm working a 9 to 5. Yeah, I work 9 to 5, and then I come back home and I spend time with my family. I'll still be in the same environment in the UK, for example. That is the first sacrifice. But is it truly a sacrifice? I'm not sure it is. you know. It again goes back to what I said at the beginning, is priorities. What is the priorities of that people? I don't need to be sat there. Again, with all due respect, some people might need to. I don't need to sit there and speak to my family every single minute of the day, every day. I don't need to. I don't need to be around them every single day to know that that they love me and I love them. That's just the way of life. Not everybody's going to be around and in your life forever. Yes, of course, you want to maximize the time you can spend with your family and friends, but ultimately, they're not going to be there for you forever. So you have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and make those sacrifices to get you to the position where later on in life, you not having to make those sacrifices continually, where you can spend time with your family later on. By sacrificing a few years now, later on, I can hopefully take more of a back seat, relax, and have a family and that can spend time with and actually be a part of, rather than just being absent family member who's just there making money and nothing else. So you got to sacrifice something at some stage.
That's such an important point, because I get so many people, I'm sure you too, like say, oh, I wish I could do what you do. I wish I could just leave everything behind. But they just can't, because the family is nearby.
Yeah.
And I understand that if that person is the only one in their family and to take care of the parents, for example, that's something I would understand. But if they already have a big family in that country, then it really doesn't really make it, in my opinion, it makes it impossible to move out. But if that person has a big family in back home, it doesn't make a difference. So you can move out.
Yes.
Because your parents are still in good hands, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly the point that you mentioned. So what would you tell those people that can't leave their family? They do have brothers and sisters and cousins and to take care of each other. But they still don't have the courage to move out. So what would you tell them?
But you see, those kind of people, Mario, I'm not even trying to convince that they should move out, right? Because that sort of individual will probably end up coming back home in the next few months. Probably end up wasting their time, As I mentioned earlier on when you asked me, I said you need to jump in head first. You need to be able to commit to this move. You need to make sure this is what you actually want to do. Because if in your mind you can't spend a week away from your family, how do you expect to spend years away? It's just not going to happen. You're going to be wasting your time. So again, I think it's not for everybody. And that is the most important thing that I'd like to make sure people are aware of. The lifestyle that I've led is not for everybody. Being alone from family and friends is not for everybody. Being away from the culture, the language, etc., is not for everybody. But for those that can live that lifestyle of, I wouldn't say solitude, but away from familiarity, away from family, away from friends, they tend to reap the rewards, because the rewards are always on the other side of that uncomfortableness. It's always on the other side of unfamiliarity. It's never, oh yeah, I've been doing this every single day for the last year and all of a sudden I stroke it rich. Very unlikely. You need to be uncomfortable. You need to make sacrifices. You need to push yourself. So unless you can do that, you're better off not trying to begin with.
Yeah, because you remind me of a similar scenario. I tried to start a business with someone back in the UK, but he didn't have the same mindset as I have. I would leave the job and start a business, and that person wouldn't. So we started anyway. But like a few weeks in, he said, "Oh, sorry, it's not for me. I want to spend more time with my family, with my kids, I like my comfort with my job." And it's fine. It's absolutely fine.
Absolutely.
But it's just what you're saying. We can't convince those type of people, and it's absolutely fine. It's just where your priorities are.
It's not for everybody, as I mentioned, right? Some people are very comfortable with getting their paycheck at the end of every month. They know exactly how much they're getting, when they're getting it, and they continue living their life like that. It's not for everybody, as I mentioned.
Exactly. In a similar mindset and what you said about someone leaving their family and friends to move out. It's also a question of mindset, what type of person you are. Would you say people, like, if can you teach that to a person, or is it just who they are? Like, there's nothing you can do?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I really don't know, man. But yes, I honestly think it's just within you, I've always been one to travel. I've always wanted to, had itchy feet. Very much like my dad. That is the same. I remember we used to go to Gatwick Airport, for just to see the plane, and me and my dad, and get some food. And then he'll find like a cheap deal, like £99. You fly tomorrow to Cairo, all inclusive, blah, blah, blah. You call them up at the airport, say,
Wow.
hey, we're going tomorrow. I booked us flights. Literally, it'll be like that. Pack the bags. We're leaving tomorrow. We're leaving in 4 hours, something like that. So that kind of spontaneity, I think, and the travel bug and the itchy feet, definitely from my old man. Sure.
Wow. Amazing. I love that. I love that because that sets the basis of your entire personality,
Absolutely.
your life.
Absolutely, mate. You can put me in a room with anybody and I can have a conversation with that individual. Whereas with most people, you put them in a room with strangers they never met, they'll just go into quiet mode and sit in the corner and revert back to what they're comfortable with, which is the people they know.
Yeah, it's just that's also I think what helped you just head first, make the move, and connect with people. But I think there are different personalities, and it's absolutely fine. You have the introverts, the extroverts. People enjoy connecting and talking and conversing with other people. They just like their quiet, quiet time and be with themselves.
Exactly. Look, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, it's not for everybody. The lifestyle looks amazing from the outside, but it isn't for everybody. Some people want to have that comfortableness. They want to come home to familiarity. They want to come home to mom and dad or their wife or their kids. They want to know exactly what's happening the day before it happens. When I don't know what every day is going to lead, and that's the beauty of life.
Yeah. So you said earlier about Thailand, you're living the dream. So you build your business.
Yeah.
You're living in a nice villa. You live, I assume, near the beach.
Yeah.
You're learning your hobby, your Muay Thai. You have a dog. So what is there that you still feel, because we as human, we never satisfied.
Always want more.
So always want more. So you, from my end, I see you living the dream. This is where I want to retire. But now you being there, what would you say is missing?
Well, for me personally, of course, is a partner. That's my personal lifestyle. Because I've been so focused on everything else other than my partner. I've been focused on my business. I've been focused on my life. I've been focused on which country I'm going to be in, etc. So I think for me personally, now I'm at that age where, of course, a partner in life is probably the priority, or at least now has more priority than it did previously. Previously living the expat lifestyle, living that sort of young man in Asia lifestyle, which slowly and quickly becomes very boring. So now my sole focus, of course, is on my businesses, like having a child. But I know you shouldn't wait for things to happen before you think I'm going to do something. But ultimately, I need certain goals and things to be met before I can give the time and space that I need to build relationships, whether even just normal friendships, right? You need time and effort to be nurtured, to focus on these things. So I never felt like I had the time or the effort or even the willpower, to be honest, to dedicate to the relationships, which is why, of course, until now it's kind of been put to one side. I think for me now, that's probably the priority. I'm 36, so I'm not getting any younger. That for me is probably the missing chess piece. Yeah. But it's hard when you have this kind of mindset and you don't know where you're going to stay. It's hard to meet somebody that has the same kind of mentality.
Would you say that you're looking for a partner that has the same mindset, that travels and take risks like you, as a yes woman? So what kind of person are you looking for?
I mean, look, you got to remember that in my lifestyle, the people that I'm likely going to meet are going to have the same mindset. It's very unlikely I'm going to meet an introvert who's still in her parents, living in her parents' basement. Right? Because the majority of people who I'm going to meet are outside of their home country traveling, unless I meet them when I'm back in the UK for that one time in the year, right? Which is very unlikely. So I think not only is that an individual that I'm looking for, but it's most likely an individual that I'll come across because of the fact of the lifestyle I live and where I'm likely to meet these individuals, But of course, you need to have somebody who's similar to you. She, of course, does not need to be, an entrepreneur who's, doing her own business, etc. But they need to have the same mindset of that world nomad. So you need to accept the fact that we may never be in one place for longer than a couple of years. I don't know. I can't tell you anything other than that, right? Think, I'm going to stay in one place or straight up say I'm done. I don't have that kind of mindset. I stay somewhere and I'm enjoying my life and it's good for me, great. The minute I feel, okay, it served its purpose, I'm packing my bag on to the next place. That is the kind of person I am. So ideally, somebody who can understand that or has the same kind of mindset, or at least is accepting of that we may not stay for more than a couple of years, 2 years in one place before we go somewhere else. So that is the mindset and the lifestyle they're going to have to become accustomed to, that your friends are probably not going to be your friends for too long. So that's I guess, the difficult part of leading this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah. And it's important of what you said, because when you have a partner that's completely opposite, it's just stay at home, who lived with their parents.
Yeah.
You don't really have much to talk about,
Yeah.
but it can be a different opposites, but
Absolutely.
you still have in common the travel.
Yeah.
You know, you create all those stories, and
Certain
then you
similarities.
carry that exactly.
Yeah.
And then you take that to the next generation, to your kids, because now, look, you talk about your dad at Gatwick Airport and booking spontaneous flights.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you would do something the same.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I went to Rome on with one of my ex-girlfriends many years ago for £1 flights. Again, I was at work and it's just, I saw an article saying, hey, Ryanair flying for £1 to certain destinations. I had no destination in mind. I just put in the date and put in go. It said Venice, £1. I booked two-way flights on me and my ex-girlfriend, and we went for £1 for Venice. So then
How long ago was that?
More than the flight. The bag was £20. I never forget it, because the £1 is just flight with hand luggage. She wanted to take her bag with her to put in this and that. Cost me £20 for a suitcase. £4 for us both to fly there and back. The £20 for a suitcase.
Wow.
Never forget it. That was maybe
what an experience.
20 years ago, maybe. Not 20 years ago. No, not 20 years ago. I was working on my placement year at Bosch. So I must have been 19, maybe 20. So 16, 17 years ago.
Like £1 flight nowadays, I don't think you can get anything for a pound.
You can't even
nowadays,
get a bus for £1.
No.
And get a bus.
But it's like an amazing story, because these things you pick up from your parents and you try to apply them for your next generation. And I love that.
Yeah.
So for anyone who wants to move to Thailand, just give us a glimpse into the process, because you mentioned with Singapore, the visa process, the threshold, how much you have to earn. So towards the end of this podcast, if you could give us some insights on what you have to do to move to Thailand.
Yeah. So look, Thailand now is surprisingly easier if you want to move here. The reason why is because Thailand launched something called the DTV, or the Destination Thailand Visa, which is basically a visa for 5 years for anybody who has remote work. Anybody. So let's say you now work from home for your fashion company, and they had for you to work remotely from anywhere. You can apply for a Thailand visa for up to 5 years. Maximum, you can stay 6 months in one go. You can easily leave for a holiday for 2 weeks to come back. For example, I'm obviously just come back from Egypt. I'm going to Sydney next month. So every time I go and come back, that 6 months resets again. Yeah. So this visa allows you to stay in Thailand for up to 5 years. And you can't work in Thailand. So obviously all your money is being made from outside, being made remotely. Yeah. But then you can stay for the country for as long as you want, up to 5 years. So that is the easiest and cheapest way that I'm aware of. You can go anywhere in Asia and live for that long. That is the best visa. Indonesia, I think, has something similar also for digital nomads. But this one is, the Thailand version. So a 5-year DTV, that is your easiest option to get out here and then at least be in the environment where the opportunities hopefully will arise.
And is it like for people that move there, is it like what can they expect? Because you say remote work, you have also the challenges like the time difference, you have the language, because you said Singapore, a lot is in English. So what can you expect?
Well, you wouldn't be working in Thailand, right? So the language is not an issue. You continue working for whatever job you have already. For other people, they don't want to work. Other people just want an opportunity to come and live in Thailand and find those opportunities. So the DTV will also allow you to do that, because you can do one for Muay Thai, for example. You can do one for cultural studies. You can do one for Thai cooking. So they can give you this visa for multiple things. So it just gives you an opportunity to come and live here legally for as long as possible until you can find opportunities. But yes, if you're doing remote work, then that would just be you doing the same job you're doing now. You can just have the Thai lifestyle. So you can come and live in Thailand and work digitally from your laptop here, pay Thai expenses, Thai rent, Thai food costs, Thai travel costs. So it's a very, very different lifestyle and much cheaper. So anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. Anybody who's got a job now and working from home can do this tomorrow. And it costs nothing. It costs like, I think, £250 for the visa. That is the easiest path to be able to move to Thailand. Even one of my buddies, he's a content creator. He does TikTok for a living. He got the DTV. But even content creators can get it.
So you can say any reason, and it's so easy to apply for that.
As long as you're making money. There's two paths. Path number one is DTV for remote workers, the professional DTV. Those who have an income from anything. You can be a property investor for all they care. As long as you have an income, and you can show you have an income and you have your own business, you'll get a DTV for 5 years. The other route, so the income, whether it's a job, whether it's your own business, it doesn't matter. That's the first route. It cannot be income from Thailand, because if it's income from Thailand, you then need a work permit.
Right.
You see?
Okay, understood.
DTV does not allow you the right to work. It only allows you the right to live in Thailand. So your source of income must be from outside of Thailand. Yeah. So
And
that
is there a threshold?
and I don't believe there's a threshold to income, but you have to have, if I'm not mistaken, 500,000 baht, which is, I think, is about £10,000, £12,000 in your bank.
Right.
You need to have some cash to show that you can live. The other route is the DTV for the cultural studies or Muay Thai, cooking classes, Thai language, whatever you want to learn. You can get a visa from that route. That one, you don't need to have a job. You don't need to have an income, but you need to show you have cash to obviously support your studies.
Right. Okay. And do you know how much roughly?
Not
you
sure
would
to be
have
honest.
have that, or?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
okay.
Don't know. But for sure, the remote worker one is the easier one.
And to have an income, I mean, not everyone has that, but you can have a property that you're renting out.
Exactly.
In the
That's
UK, for example.
It still shows that you got a property, you got income coming from it, and you got the cash in your bank account. They'll give it to you.
Yeah.
They just want to make sure you're
Okay.
not coming here and, begging for money.
So what's the main differences then between the living standard and the living style between Singapore and Thailand?
Wow.
So
Very, very
is it
broad.
true you just chill on the beach all day and barbecue? Or?
No, unfortunately not. Again, it depends on the lifestyle you are living, right? I've still got a tech startup that I'm working on. Of course, a lot of my time is going on that. But if you're just traveling, then of course, you're just sitting on the beach every day. But if you're working, you're still working. You still got to, your working hours that you would do, no matter what those hours are. And outside of the hours, you do your hobbies and your activities, and you catch up with friends just like you would do in any other country. The difference is when I go for a walk, I'm walking on a paradise beach. I bring my dog for a walk every morning on a paradise beach versus in a park. If I'm going for dinner, I'm going for dinner in a nice sunset bar that overlooks the sea. Whereas, in London, you're going probably to a rooftop bar in the middle of the jungle, middle of the concrete jungle. It just depends on the, I guess, the lifestyle that you want to live. But ultimately, the main difference is there's no massive concrete buildings here. It's nature.
Yeah. So if you love nature, if you love the beach, if you like the peace and quiet, then Thailand is for you. But you can also have the busy, crazy skylines, the high rooftops in Bangkok.
Exactly.
The nightlives.
So that's the difference between Thailand and Singapore. Singapore is just Singapore. It's just one place. It's a tiny, tiny island. In the day, Singapore is an island. People don't know this, but it's still an island. It's tiny. Whereas in Thailand, you can go to many, many, many of the cities. Bangkok compared to Phuket is two different things. So, compare it even more so to the islands we're on. The islands have nothing. It's a pure, untouched, old school palm tree islands. There's nothing. There's no McDonald's, no KFC, no Subways, no Royal Mail, no these big brands. You don't see them. All individual businesses are owned by individual people. It's more like a small community. Go to Bangkok on the other side. You have all these big names, all these big brands, all these big buildings, all these big hotels, like not any other normal busy city. So
it has a lot to offer, like you said, and it's for anyone that wants either the peace and quiet and the beach life, or to live in the city. That's amazing.
Right.
And would you say it's a safe place if you have kids, if you have a family? Are the hospitals good standard? Do they take care of you?
Singapore is definitely going to be better with regards to safety and the level of healthcare, 100%. Kids go to school on their own in Singapore, like 5 a.m, 6 a.m, you see them waiting in the bus stop. In the UK, that would never happen. You would never see that child again. They'll be kidnapped in seconds. So Singapore is very safe from that perspective. Thailand is also safe, but it's a little bit more rough around the edges. It's a much bigger place. It's a bit more rural in some areas, a bit more poverty in certain areas. And of course, with that comes a bit more crime. But you don't really feel it in your day-to-day life. If you go looking for trouble, then yes, you'll find it. But you don't feel unsafe.
It's so it depends where you are. I assume, like any other country.
Absolutely.
It depends on the area, and
exactly.
But you wouldn't let your kids walk themselves to school like you would in Singapore.
I mean, you probably still would, because again, it depends where you are. You're very unlikely as an expat going to be living in a rural part of Thailand. You'll probably be living in one of the main cities. And if that's the case, it's probably going to be, an expat school that they go to, a foreign international school with its own bus, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think it's going to be too dissimilar. But if you live there, I think in a rural part of Thailand, then yes, you might be a bit more secure about your kids.
Right. And I assume after 5 years, you prove you haven't done any crime, anything wrong. You're a good example, and they can just extend your visa, or do you have to go back?
That's anybody's guess because this visa is brand new, so nobody actually knows what's going to happen in the 5 years. And look, you're not going to stay on it depends on the individual, but somebody like me is not going to stay on a DTV for 5 years. I'll stay on a DTV maybe for a year, 2 maximum, until the next business is up and running, or until I figure out the next step and then go from there. So this DTV just gave me a headache-free way of remaining in Thailand for the next 5 years, rather than having to go in and out of the country every time my tourist visa expires, which is every 60 days. I can't go in and out every 60 days. This just gives me a much better way of living here without having to worry. I stay here legally until I figure out what is the next visa or next country or next business or whatever it is that I'm going to do next. I don't tend to plan these things.
Sorry?
I don't tend to plan these things. They just happen.
I figured.
Yeah. So who knows?
I figured with you, man.
I could be here a year. I could be here 10. I couldn't tell you.
I love it. And it goes back to what you said. We're not trees. We're not meant to stay in one location.
Exactly. And it goes back to what I said about partner. That whatever partner that I need needs to be okay with that we don't know where we're going to be next year. Who knows?
So, hey, any single ladies listening,
who want to go
what
for a short period or a long period, we don't know yet.
Amazing. And how much money would I need if I live in the UK? That's it. I want to move to Thailand. So I got a remote job. I'm moving to Thailand. I'm renting out a place. What can I expect? How much money would I need? Let's figure, let's say the flights, accommodation, the deposit, all of that.
Well, it depends where you're going to go in Thailand. Yeah. Because of course, different parts of Thailand are going to come with different price points. If you go to Bangkok and Phuket, where much more tourist heavy, you're going to pay higher prices. Even in Egypt, I just come back from Sharm el-Sheikh. Yeah. Sharm el-Sheikh compared to Cairo, insanity. I've never paid £25 for a kilo of baklava in Cairo. In Sharm el-Sheikh, that was the going rate, So it just goes to show that Thailand is no dissimilar to that. You can be in places where it will cost you £1 to get your lunch, or could cost you £5 to get your lunch. It really depends on where you go. To put it into perspective, I live a quite healthy lifestyle, so I eat quite healthy. I go to my local Thai chicken and rice shop here, and it costs me $100. 100 baht is about £2 and 10p. My lunch. Yeah, this is my chicken and rice with vegetables, whatever, that I have for lunch. My dinner is roughly around the same, usually between 150 to 250 baht, depending on where I go. That's between, £3 to £5 for lunch. For dinner. So that is if I go out and eat. If I cook myself at home, I can of course do it cheaper. Just depends on the lifestyle. But even then, for £1.50 or £1 or £2 for a meal, you're not going to get that in the UK. Never. No. So you can easily live on £10 a day. Easily. If it's just you as an individual by yourself, £10 a day, that's 300 pounds. Put another £300 for your rent, that's £600. £1,000 a month is spending on everything you need to.
Right. That's as a single person, right?
As a single individual.
When you have
And family, so
of course. And is it like in Singapore, everything is privatized? So if you are there, you still have to get private healthcare insurance, or do you?
Yeah, I mean, look, Thailand is much cheaper, so you can of course take the risk. But coming from an insurance background myself, I'll obviously always have an insurance policy, just to make sure that I'm protected in case something really does go wrong. I want to make sure that I have the option to choose the best hospitals and choose the private hospitals and not go to the local government hospitals just because of costs. Yeah. For me personally, insurance policy is the better way to go. And of course, because the health costs are much cheaper, your insurance is also cheaper than in Singapore. I pay about a quarter of the price of the premiums that I used to pay while I was living in Singapore.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Naturally, as it's a cheaper country. And
exactly.
The currency is weaker.
Yeah. So honestly, I think £1,000, £1,000 is plentiful. If you want to live a normal lifestyle, nothing, see no frills, pay your rent, eat your food, do what you need to do, and actually live an okay lifestyle, £1,000 in Thailand is plenty.
Yeah. That's I would say is nothing like compared
very low.
to
very low
in the UK. Yeah, because compared to the UK, because there are people that are really, really struggling having 2 jobs.
Yeah.
And at the end of the month, not much is left.
But
so
the problem
is,
this is where the problem lies, though. You can have 2 jobs in Thailand and still not make £1,000 in a month. You see? So this is where I'm saying £1,000 like it's nothing, because you're coming from the UK and I'm coming from Singapore salaries. But here in Thailand, make £1,000 in a month, you've got a pretty good job. Most people are earning 20, 30, 40K maximum in a month. which is about 800, 900 pounds. Yeah.
Right. I see.
So when you actually calculate it, it's a lot of money to locals.
Yeah.
To an expat, somebody coming from an outside environment, somebody working in the UK or working remotely, £1,000 is a lot of money. So it's all
that
relative
makes sense.
to the picture.
Yeah. You mentioned Egypt. I assume it's the same. If you have a remote job living in Cairo, you live like a king.
Correct.
Same principle. Yeah. Okay. So if now that person wants to buy an apartment in Thailand, are you allowed as an expat to do that?
You can buy an apartment. You cannot buy a house. You cannot buy land. You can buy a condo. So you can buy a flat inside of a condominium, inside of a flat. Yes, you can do so. But as the foreigner, you cannot buy land. You cannot buy properties, houses. Sorry.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And what have you done?
Neither. I'm currently renting.
Right. So in terms of rent, bills, and everything, including food, did I understand you correctly? So it's about 1,000 a month for one person.
I've got nothing to spend money on. I rarely drink these days. When I was in Singapore, I was spending a lot more money because I was drinking a lot more. Here, I'm rarely drinking. I'm training all the time. I wake up very early to go to the gym, so I'm not staying out late. So there's really nothing to spend my money on. There's literally nothing to spend money on. Just your food or your rent, your insurance payments, my dog's food, and occasionally going to, one of the islands around here for a short, couple of day trip. There's nothing really to spend money on.
Like I mentioned, I hope one day I will retire in Thailand. Yeah. I'm coming in January. So let's talk about that later.
Well, now you know the way to Thailand. If you need to get here, now you know the easiest to get out here. So with two kids, it makes it a little bit harder.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see. We'll make it work.
But it's never impossible, Mario. It's just harder, not impossible.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story.
You're absolutely welcome.
It was very inspiring. I hope for anyone that's thinking or ever thought about moving abroad, living the dream, work abroad, becoming an expat. I hope that sparked this little fire in you, and you can see that it's not just a physical move, but there's a lot of things happening hand in hand with the mindset change, with the changes in your relationship with your families. And there's so much more to it that is actually really difficult to explain, right? You mentioned the safety, kids going to school 5 o'clock in the morning, which you can't think of in the UK being like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
In Switzerland, same thing with Switzerland. Kids are 4 years old. They're walking to kindergarten themselves.
Yeah.
I leave my car unlocked. Sometimes I don't care.
Yeah,
we wake up in the morning.
I leave my motorbike sometimes. So I think that's again. So the questions you asked today, really, I've answered them from a perspective of an individual single man. So of course, if you ask somebody who's a family man, the advice and the information can be slightly different. I think that is the one thing that people tend to, forgo. Is the effect it has on your kids, right? That's the other thing, because your kids are also being raised in that environment. They're being raised in that expat environment where they're seeing other expat kids around them, where they go into international school, where they're being in the environment, in my mind, with the best of the best, or at least the mindset is the same mindset. So even those kids, by being raised in the expatriate mindset or the expatriate environment, are also going to have in my mind, a positive effect on those kids, but just don't expect them to stay in one location either.
Yeah, that's done. You as a parent.
Exactly.
Oh, daddy, I'm moving to Australia.
I'm off. Exactly. And you can't stop there. You're safe. So that will definitely rub off on the kids as well.
Yeah. But hey, it was really nice talking to you, Kay. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, likewise.
And your honesty and opening up. And wish you all the best in Thailand. And
thank you very much. And hopefully we'll catch you when you're out here.
Will do, man. Thank you.
All the best, Mario. Cheers, buddy.
All the best. Bye. Thank you so much for watching the first episode all the way to the end. I really appreciate you. If you like what we're doing here and you enjoy the show, the easiest and free way to support us is to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any amazing stories from expats around the world. See you in the next episode.